Do you prefer clearing your warrant early or waiting until the last minute?
Got to clear it early because any minute it's out there could be a minute where you get arrested, and it's never a convenient time.
What's up, College Station? I'm Grace Hollowell, and today I'm joined by Municipal Court Judge Spillane. Hi, Judge.
Hi.
Welcome back. It is that time of year again for the warrant, amnesty, and roundup. I feel like it comes sooner and sooner each year.
Right. It may not feel like fall, but it's here.
Yes, yeah. It's here, even though it's still 90 degrees outside. So we're going to cover that today and how people can take care of their warrants if they have them to avoid arrest during the roundup period. But to start things off, it's been a while since we've had you on the show, so welcome back.
Thanks.
So let's start off by talking about a little bit about what you do and your background with the city.
Sure. I've been the presiding municipal court judge since 2002. So it's been over 20
Quite a while,
years.
yes.
Yeah, it's a long time. I worked 8 years in the district attorney's office before that. So we've been here in this community since 1994. But as presiding municipal court judge, I oversee our court, and our court oversees all the Class C misdemeanors that occur in College Station, which are mostly criminal offenses, city ordinance violations, traffic that most citizens are familiar with, but also assaults, theft, disorderly conduct, noise, and more we've seen a lot of minor in possession, alcohol violations, mostly coming out of the Northgate area, which has grown in terms of, the number of students have grown, but also just everyone living around Northgate area has increased the number of violations we've seen out of that area too.
Yes. When you think of College Station, we're not the size of Austin or Houston, but our MIPs there are a lot more of them than there are in the larger cities.
Yeah, about 1 out of 6 in Texas are filed here in my court. So yeah, quite a few are filed in College Station.
Right, and we want our students to enjoy the Northgate area. That's why it's there, for their entertainment, but we want them to do so safely.
That's right.
And if they do get in trouble, we want to educate them rather than punish them.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on that, educating them. And that, at that age, especially by 21, they care about not having that follow them to internships, future jobs. So we do a lot of education.
So what is something that has surprised you over your time here? Like you said, you've been here since 2002. Aggieland in 2002 was much different than it is now. So what is one thing that has surprised you during your time here?
One of the major things that surprised me is that no matter what, I get to see everyone here at my court, and I've been surprised. Just almost everyone goes through the court. They may get a traffic ticket. I see people with juveniles. And the one thing that surprised me compared to prosecuting felonies is that we can do so much in this court to improve the quality of life. And also, we have an opportunity to make sure people don't end up in court in the future. So the thing that surprised me was that the impact that municipal court can have in the general criminal justice system to avoid people in the future ending up in more serious trouble, because people usually start their criminal career, if they're going to become career criminals, but they start up in a municipal court. And so I've been surprised how much we can do and all the programs in this community to help people go through the court. It's not fun, they don't want to be there, but to be able to not end up in another court. So that surprises me. And every year we do different partnerships with different members of the community to make our court better.
Yes, and that is something that I think can kind of be a misconception, right? Is that a court or a judge is there to punish, but no, we are there to educate and prevent you from making these decisions in the future. And for those who might not know I know you covered what the municipal court handles. Let's kind of give a breakdown of what the municipal court does versus what the larger courts would do.
Right. The district courts cover felonies. County court at law mostly covers Class A and B misdemeanors, but it's really driving while intoxicated, and major assaults are there. Plus, they do civil things, Right. But whereas our court are fine only court, but criminal cases. I mean, marijuana has not yet become a fine only case. Many states it has, or it's been legalized. But we cover drug paraphernalia, assaults, and also all the city ordinance violations that really do have to do with quality of life and are unique for each city. So our cases are fine only cases, but one of the reasons I'm seeing you is about the warrant amnesty. If people don't show up to our court, then they could end up arrested. And so I do sign, unfortunately, a lot of arrest warrants, even though the whole idea is just for people to pay the fine or do a program. If they're a juvenile, it's about doing community service or teen court. And there's a number of programs we do, but that really distinguishes us from, if you're in felony court, super serious violation. And while there is probation and other things, a lot of times, like something involving murder or something like that, you really are talking about protecting the community. And unfortunately, it's a sad case compared to our cases.
Yes, and our community is unique with our demographics of students and retirees, as well as younger families. So I'm sure there's a good mix of cases that you see. So what makes you so passionate about the work that you do, and what has made you stay for so long in College Station?
Right. I love the community. It's been great. I got married about 2 weeks before we moved here, and I met my wife in Houston, and we've loved this community and raising our daughter here, who's now 29. So, and she's in Houston. But anyway, but what I've loved about the court is the ability to just impact so many different people. And as you mentioned, yes, it's about keeping people out of court, which protects all of us, but a lot of it is education. People, especially new students, first time they're away from home, they learn about a lot of the rules, or they test the rules and learn, why that doesn't make sense to break the rules. And we see juveniles in high school. We're dealing now with vaping cases and things like that. There's always something that changes, but the goal is education, because I think through education, people then make better choices. And so, yes, there's punishment. I mean, they have to pay a fine, and you don't want a fine to be just the cost of having a loud party. So, they do have to pay a fine. But if whatever they do keeps them out of court, which is what I measure in the future, then I think we've been a success. So I really enjoy the court. And I also enjoy teaching throughout Texas. So that's kept me, fresh and always try new partnerships. And the city of College Station has always been eager to partner with the university or with other entities to have our mission as a city. So it's not just the city, but the city's been wonderful, and the departments work well together. We meet once a month, all the departments that interact with the court. So it's really nice, and we work with you. You're great helping us get the word out on things we need to do with the court.
Yes, and one of those education pieces that we worked on in the past was the community living course for those students that receive the city ordinance violations. And like you said, the educational piece, they don't know what they don't know. This is their first time out on their own. They don't know that they're not supposed to leave their trash container out all day, or they don't know that, if I'm having a loud party, there's a family with a baby living next to me because I'm in a neighborhood. So giving them all of that information that they need to know to help them be successful throughout their time here in College Station is really important, and that's what we focus on here, is getting people that right information in a way that they understand it.
No, exactly. I see them at the end of every community living class, and I tell them, even though I know you're not here voluntarily, the whole goal is to make their time efficient and give them good information. And we see through the anonymous questionnaires and through their responses that they do appreciate all that they learn, not just about our city ordinances and other things, but also about how to clear your case. And they hear from the police, and they have lots of questions. And and it's in person, which I think more and more everyone is in front of screens, and it really does. And it's great. They use our website, and I want them to avoid having to constantly drive to court. But being in an in-person class, I think, adds a little bit of extra, juice to what we're doing in terms of impact.
Yes, and I don't know how many times when I was facilitating the class, the students would say, I had no idea that this was a rule, or I had no idea that this is where I find this information,
Yes,
or what I'm supposed to do. So yes, it's a very good program, and we very much, you emphasize, you already did the thing that got you in trouble. We're not here to punish you any further. We're just here to help you.
Exactly. Yeah, we're looking out for them, which helps us if they don't end up in court. So it helps
Right.
everyone. So,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is something that most people don't know about you or what you do?
Well, about me, I was in medical school before
Okay.
before I went, and only stayed a year. And medical school is fine, but I didn't see myself doing research, and so I taught for 3 years, and then went to law school, and that kind of all fit. I was an English major in college, so that's probably something people don't know about my journey all the way to municipal court. And in terms of about our court, what people don't know is that we really do try. We do so much outside of the court for traffic safety. We've won a traffic safety award 15 years in a row as a city. Because of all those efforts. So, because the court is a neutral place. So we're not out there as an advocate
Right.
one way or the other. On the other hand, outside, we can do a lot of education in terms of traffic safety, and our clerks are all involved in that. They're all, it's not just me. It's all the clerks are, and they're so important. They're the front line where people interact, and so we really care about that customer service. And people may not think that because they just sometimes have a stereotype about a court, and I understand you don't necessarily want to go to court, but
It's not a happy occurrence.
No, you're not buying something. It's not fun, but once you're there, I think people understand we're there to explain. We're not their attorneys, but we're there to explain the options, and we really do our best to have good customer service and be efficient for the customer or for our defendants. So that's important to us too.
Yes, and you mentioned the traffic safety. I know just from my experience, traffic and driving on the roads in College Station at certain times can be a
Yes.
little daunting.
Yes.
So what are some of the trends that you've seen traffic-wise?
I'm glad you mentioned, because you used the word surprise. One thing, since COVID, don't know if it's because of COVID, but since COVID, the number of people going 25 miles per hour and over has dramatically
Yes.
increased. It used to be 1 or 2 a month that we'd get someone doing that. And now the total is near 500 a year more. So we're constantly getting, and this could be 100 miles per hour on Highway 6, but it also can be, on 2018 or we are, unfortunately, have a lot of construction zones, but, going 25 or over, that is a serious situation. And we do different things for that, but that has surprised me. I've seen quite a bit of that. Traffic enforcement is tied in with accidents and other things. And while there are a lot of other things going on, one of the things that I've always noticed is that the number one reason a lot of people, especially under age 30, die is traffic fatalities. It's not suicide or other things that we may think about, but traffic fatalities. So it does matter. One traffic ticket is not, you're not Jack the Ripper. We all have gotten traffic citations, but traffic enforcement is important in terms of our safety. But the high speed, and if you drive, especially drive to Houston, you'll know, it's not everyone, but you'll notice a person that's going in and out and going well over 25 over the speed limit. And so I've seen that trend, and that trend has not ended. Our Texas Transportation Institute has looked to it, and it's a trend. And unfortunately, the higher speed you're at and you get into an accident, the more awful the consequences. So that's been a trend, unfortunately, and that's throughout Texas, but I've seen that here, just the high speeds at our court.
Yes, so definitely slow down, think
Yeah.
of other people. You'll get to where you're going.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you want to get there safe. You don't want to get there.
It's so important. You'll get there eventually, and we have ways with GPS and other things to tell when you're going to get someplace. On the good side, I've seen Uber and Lyft and the use of that. We always had a ride share kind of program that A&M kind of started, but with Uber and Lyft, I've seen a decrease in DWIs and that sort of thing, which is good because
Yes.
those are awful too. And so people use that, and I think younger people actually are used to that and realize that you don't make that impaired decision to drive when you're already impaired. And so I'm really happy to see that. That's been a good trend. And cars are smarter too. And
Yes.
other things, so.
Yes, I know my car is it's a few years old now, but it still has all those safety features.
Right. Those are all for the good.
Yes, very, very helpful. So how can people contact you or the court if they have questions about anything that we talk about today, or just questions in general?
They always can call us. It's 979-764-3683. They can call. But we use our website. We want people, people want to use a website. You all are so helpful with us in terms of that. And we were just talking about maybe putting things about the weddings we do, because we do weddings, which is a happy thing in our court. But, so use our website. But you always can come to our court too if you want, when we're open. But calling us and using our website should give you a lot of information, from how to, you can pay online your case, you can look it up, to how to do deferred, how teen court, or get an expunction to completely clear your case. So there's so much on the website you can do. We have YouTube. You can go to our YouTube channel. We have some videos to give you information too. So those are kind of the 3 or 4 ways. But if people want to come by, you can as well. And we try to make sure you're not going to be in a long line if you do that either. So.
Yes, and like you said, it's a neutral place. You're not going to get in trouble for asking
Right.
questions.
And we go over options. We're not your attorney, but we go over options. So.
Right. And speaking of options, that ties into the warrant amnesty,
Right.
which is a unique program that I had never seen until I moved here. So let's briefly explain what the warrant amnesty period is and why the court has chosen to adopt it.
Well, we'll be starting again October 13th, and it ends on Halloween, October 31st.
Easy to remember.
Yes. And when I first came, we were doing it once a year, and we were moving around, but it's been so popular that we do it twice a year. And this is our fall amnesty. And for those 3 weeks, if you have a warrant, or you think you have a warrant, a lot of people forget, believe it or not.
Yeah.
They put that ticket in their glove compartment, or they're not sure which court, because we'll help steer you to the right court. But if you do, if you come to our court, take care of your case. Most importantly, you won't be arrested, but we'll also waive the $50 warrant fee. And come January 2026, that goes up to $75. The state legislature increased the warrant fee. But we'll waive that warrant fee, so you won't have that. And it's an attempt for people to clear their cases. And we send texts, we call. We don't want people to be arrested and end up in the jail. Have that booking photo online with Brazos County. But anyway, so during that time period, if you do that, we'll waive the warrant fee, take care of your case, and you'll avoid being arrested.
Yes, and you mentioned the booking photo. That's something that you talked about in the community living course. So why is that important to take care of your case so you don't have your booking photo on?
If you get arrested, you're going to be on the internet. I mean, the Brazos County puts their records online. And so you may notice if someone gets arrested, suddenly their booking photo is right there in the newspaper because it's online. And so one of the things you can do with a Class C, if you take care and you're a good citizen, is you can have your record expunged. And what that means is it's completely wiped off. It's wiped off the internet. You can send that order wherever it is. And you actually, under Texas law, can legally say you've never had a case before. Well, an arrest booking photo, especially what we've noticed, this data, that can file you for 10 years, for 15 years. And people, it's not just people Googling you when you apply for a job, but there's, data services that they pick up. And you don't want something that to follow you in your past that was a bad mistake, but you're a better person now. And so that's so important. But yes, they're out there, and once it's out there, it really is important to try to rectify. It's not just at our court anymore. It's on the web. So
yes, for everybody to see.
Yeah, anyone. Yes.
Okay, and so since this program began, over 7,000 warrants worth over $2 million have been cleared. What trends or patterns have you observed over those years during this time period?
Well, number one, that it works. I mean, that's great because, again, we're getting people to come to court. And I've done everything to get people to come to court, like the safe harbor. But the warrant amnesty, and we've always emphasized the amnesty. We have a roundup afterwards. So chances are if you're in warrant and you don't come in, you might get arrested, but the amnesty is everything. And so I've seen that trend. I've also, interesting, the spring is always more people come in.
Yeah.
And maybe getting tax things back or whatever, but it's just almost universally the spring, even though the warrants don't change necessarily. Hopefully we'll get people to come in the fall, but we've seen people act even no matter what we do in terms, because we more and more send texts, we do everything to get people to come to court. The amnesty, having that amnesty gets people to come in, and so that's a good thing,
Yes, it is a good thing. I think the word amnesty puts people at ease.
Yes, and it is in terms of your warrant fee and not being arrested. It's never a good, I'd rather be arrested for a Class C than murder, for instance, but it's not good to be arrested. It's
right.
It's not a good thing. So it's really helpful for citizens to come in.
Yes, and how did this idea for the amnesty program come about for College Station?
We were doing it. It had come about, back in 2002. We were doing it off and on. We had talked to Brian. We were kind of coordinating, but their timetable, they often like to do it in January. Well, January, if there is a quiet time in our town, January is probably now. I think sometimes they start before Martin Luther King, but those first 2 weeks in January, are probably our quietest. So that wasn't great for us because just people aren't in town and it's quiet. But it kind of grew, and we did it, and we were a leading court because other cities started adopting this to the point where, and there still is a statewide amnesty program that happens in the spring. Again, courts I've seen now, it went from a lot of courts emphasizing the roundup versus the amnesty. We've always emphasized the amnesty versus the roundup, and I've seen now that completely has flipped in the last 10 years, that cities are emphasizing amnesty. They may have a roundup and say that to motivate people to come in, but it's all about getting people to come to court. I've seen that more and more, and fortunately arrests have gone down because of that, I think.
Yes, and that is a great thing.
Yeah.
We said, we don't want you to get arrested. We want you to...
And even when people are arrested for cities, and I've seen this trend, it's very expensive to have a jail. It's so that's not a very efficient way to get people to come to court. And a lot of people, and we've learned too that people aren't just hiding out. People literally forget, or they just think it'll just all go away, or they get despair. They don't think that the court can help them with payment plans or community service. And so we get that word out, and if you just get people to come to court, they're happy they did. And they're not happy they got a ticket, but they're happy they did because they can resolve their case. And I don't want someone to have a case for 10 years. That's ridiculous. So they need to, we have ways through community service, payment plans to get cases resolved.
And our court has received recognition as like a national leader for this program. So what has been your biggest lessons along the way since this program was started?
One of the biggest lessons we've learned, and other, I think a little bit unfortunately, but a lot of states, traffic and a lot of what we see are criminal offenses have turned into civil offenses.
Yeah.
But those states are good, especially when it becomes civil offenses, into figuring out how to get people to come in and resolve their cases. And so we've seen, for instance, the use of text messages. If you make a reservation with a restaurant or you go to a doctor's office, you get all these text messages.
Yes.
And it can be irritating maybe, but they do it because it works. People just forget in our frenetic lifestyle. People forget. They don't. They put one thing on one calendar or so. And so we have found with courts that's been so efficient to get people to come in. And we've learned the lesson. We've taught other courts that however you get people in, every defendant is different. Some defendants, they get a ticket, they come in the next day, they pay it all, or they want to take care of it. Wonderful. We get college students, they want to get, their school studies are so important to them, but they're good at scheduling things and getting what they need to with us. But then we get people who are just different. They put it away, or they forget, or they get depressed over it, and they just feel like they want to avoid the court. And by reaching out to them and assuring them, educating them, and that also making sure our clerks, I want every clerk at our court, and they're all board certified, they follow a process, that they understand what goes on throughout court. Because if you don't understand what you're working on, then it's very hard to explain to someone else. So we're all kind of teachers in that sense, and the court has always embraced that. College Station's when I came from the DA's office, the idea of customer service seemed foreign to me with a criminal court, but customer service really does work, and so we try to apply. Again, people aren't coming to buy something, but they, treating people. We're all human beings. We all get frustrated. We all don't understand a process that we're new to, and so we do. The ability to educate defendants has been so important in what we do.
Yes, and that is something that I think, just from what I've seen, that y'all excel at, is that patience and that customer
yes.
service. So let's walk through the process of the amnesty period. So say I get a ticket, what steps do I need to take?
Well, you have 10 business days, which kind of goes to 2 weeks because you don't count the weekends, but you have 10 days to make a plea. If you don't come in, we're going to send you a letter. We're going to send you a text. We'll do everything. And the number one thing that people have is cell phones. That's
yes.
related. So it's great if we have your cell phone number just because we can contact you. But anyway, we'll send you. We'll reset your due date. But if you don't show up then you can face a failure to appear warrant. So that's your first time that you can get into warrant. And you have a new case, new charge. It starts getting more expensive. So that's about a month in where that happens. So you can be arrested at that point. If people come in, then they're fine. We work with you. You can either pay it off or we will give you a payment plan. If you are indigent or you have a terminal disease, say, or someone goes to the penitentiary, then there are ways that we can either waive your case or we can give you community service. If you're a juvenile, obviously you can do teen court and other things. But if you get arrested, then let's say, and you plea. If you come up during warrant amnesty, we'll waive that warrant fee. But let's say you plea and then you don't pay your case, or and you never come and talk to us. You don't talk to us about changed circumstances or something like that. Then that also case can go into warrant. So those are the ways that things can go into warrant. And it's unfortunate that those warrants occur because we do everything to stop people from that. And making sure people really shouldn't be interacting with our court more than 2 months. We try to close a case in 2 months, either through a payment plan, community service, so we do everything we can to close it, but it's really people shutting off the communication. And so that's kind of how it follows, though. Yeah, there's a lot of times, though, from the time you get a ticket to before you get a warrant. It's well within a month where we've made about 3 or 4 interactions to get you to come to court.
Yes, so that is something. Always make sure your information is current.
Right.
Make sure your address is right, your phone number. And you mentioned there are options for people who can't pay. There's payment plans.
That's right.
You're always willing to work with them to help take care of this situation. What role does law enforcement or law enforcement agencies like CSPD play during this amnesty period?
Well, during the amnesty, during this period, obviously if you're driving around and you have a warrant, you have the capability, and it's an active warrant, you can always be arrested. But our marshals are working on contacting people. If our marshals arrest you, they're going to take us to your court, not to the jail. During the amnesty period, we really want people to come in. And obviously if you come to court, you're not going to be arrested, and as long as you clear your case, we'll waive that warrant fee. So law enforcement is not actively going to be out there searching and trying to put you in jail. But on the other hand, if you're just not coming to court and it's during the amnesty period and you have a live warrant, you can be arrested. That can happen and does happen. So.
Yes, so definitely get those warrants taken care of is the point that we keep hammering here.
Right.
So what happens during the roundup phase after the amnesty period is over on Halloween? What occurs during the roundup?
Yeah, during the next about 10 days, our marshals and College Station Police Department as well, but our marshals especially, will be focusing on those warrants and finding people who just didn't come out. So there's a good chance that if you didn't come in during the amnesty, that you might be arrested. And then if you're arrested, that warrant fee for sure, you're going to have to pay that $50, or if it's January, $75 per case, because the officers went through the effort of arresting you. So, and again, I don't mention it enough, you can pay online your cases. Yeah. So you can look online. So if you're watching this and you're in Colorado, but you think no, or think you may have a case out there, you don't want to be, because we can hold your license in Colorado. There's a lot of states that will hold your license, renewing your license if you don't take care of the case. So you can online take care of your case as well.
Yes, or over the phone.
Yes, call us anytime. And we can, and again, people get confused. They have a case maybe in a JP court. They're not sure. JP Court, College Station, Bryan. And we can, help you or direct you to the right court.
So how is success of this program measured? I know we talked about winning the awards for this
Right.
program. How do you measure the results of the amnesty period?
Well, I report to council, so that always, I look at the metrics and we look at the fall and spring. And as long as, we are closing cases during this period and more warrants during the period, that's a success to me.
Yeah.
And our numbers have always, sort of gone up in terms of closing or been similar. Like I said, the spring is always more popular than the fall. I want other things to work, so we send out letters, we send out texts, and so that should decrease warrants. And the warrants that we need to have during amnesty cleared. But as long as I see that we are clearing cases during the amnesty period and at a rate greater than normal, that's a success to me. So,
Yes.
I'd love to see it where we just didn't have warrants anymore. That would be great. But, unfortunately we do. And the amnesty, we do see we're clearing more warrants. So that's kind of how I measure it.
Yes, and we've covered so much today.
Yeah.
Where, one more time, can people find out more information?
Well, you can call us at 979-764-3683. You can call our court, but you can go to our website, cstx.gov/courts, and you can look up. We even have a list of active warrants, so you can see if you or your neighbor has a warrant. So you can look up. We have the active warrants out there, so you can do that online, call, or you can stop by the court if you want. We're, on 300 Krennic Tap Road, and, there's no reason not to go to our website or call us or come to court to see if you have something. If you really know you got something, or you're just not sure, but you might have something open, clear it up so you can clear your record.
Okay, and to wrap things up, we have a fun little game of this or that questions, all relating to the court and the amnesty period. So you just tell me which one you prefer. Are you ready?
Sure, ready.
Okay. Do you prefer paying fines online or in person?
Online. In person is great. Some people want that record that you can print things online, but we're all doing things online. You don't go to a concert or anything without it online now. Everything's online. So I would say if I had to pick one, online. And if I got a ticket, I would be probably paying online, unless there's some special question I had.
Yes, me too. Do you prefer clearing your warrant early or waiting until the last minute?
Got to clear it early, because any minute it's out there could be a minute where you get arrested, and it's never a convenient time to get arrested, especially, our roundup ends right before Thanksgiving. You don't want to get arrested around a Thanksgiving holiday,
Right.
but, it's easy to, if you have an active warrant, to be arrested.
Okay, and do you prefer preventing warrants in the first place or resolving them after they happen? I think I know this one.
Preventing in the first place. I mean, we do everything to educate people not to come in. And you never know your success story, because they do what they're supposed to. But we know that people are successful doing it. And so we appreciate all the great help you give us in getting the word out.
Alrighty, a quick stop in court or a long stay in jail?
Definitely quick stop in court, because no matter how long it seems, it's a lot quicker going to court than going to jail. You do not want to go to the county jail. It doesn't resolve things really anyway. It's just unfortunate, and so makes sense. And I do take pleas in jail, but it's best come to court. More fun to go there.
Okay, and finally, amnesty is a fresh start or roundup as a wake-up call?
Amnesty is a fresh start. I mean, we have the roundup there. It's kind of there, to, out there in case people don't come in. But fresh start, clear your case, and we can teach you how to eventually completely clear your record if you're going to be a good citizen.
All right, well, thank you so much for being here today, Judge.
Thank
Always
you.
a fun time.
Enjoyed it. Thank you.
And that's what's up.